Hello everyone, and welcome to our new Stellaris series. I am Mal, and I'm joined by my friends Vanguard and Sabouts, and we have been excited for this for quite some time, and we've been planning this for months. So we have both Banks 1.5, which is the new update, which brings a whole host of new mechanics to the game, which are really, really cool. And like previous titles with Paradox, they give you a lot of value in terms of what they do in the new version. And then at the same time, we actually have our first sort of official expansion. It's not really a DLC. It's really an expansion with Utopia. So what do you think, guys? Vanguard, Sabouts?
I think we're about to kill a lot of Xenos.
I hope so.
So I think folks are probably pretty familiar with Sabouts at this point because we do a lot of things together, and Vanguard and I have done, I think we did 7 Days to Die together, but we've been planning this Stellaris thing for a while. You know, of the new features, I'm just curious before, and just so you guys know, in this introductory episode, which is episode 0 in the playlist, we're going to go over our empires. We're going to briefly go over the galaxy settings and why we're choosing what we're choosing. And then episode 1 will actually be the first gameplay video, and we're planning to release those at the same time. So that'll be available as well. But I'm curious with both of you, and why don't we start with Vanguard, but what is, of the new features, and just from Banks, not necessarily from Utopia, but what's the coolest thing you think they've added to the game, Vanguard?
In my opinion, now the science ships, when they are scanning the systems, they just don't reset the query when they found an enemy or they have to jump out. They just jump out and resume what they're doing. This is the best feature they ever placed on this game, in my opinion. But the other things, I don't know, maybe now the border attrition with fallen empires is awesome. There are a lot of great things they did.
Yeah, there was a bunch of quality of life things. I agree with you too about the whole them resuming like their next command in terms of going to the next system to scan or what have you, and not just flipping out and forgetting what they were doing. What about you, Sabouts? What do you think is the coolest thing that they've added in 1.5?
Yeah, I mean, that quality of life thing's super important, that's for sure. I know personally myself, I'm excited to mess around with all the slaving mechanics they've altered and changed. They've really put a lot on there. I mean, the fact that you can use slaves as livestock, I mean, what more could you possibly ask for? Yeah,
right? Processing them into food or forced labor or what have you. And that's also, too, that brings up the point, is that we typically have a theme with every series. So this one, we're bad guys. So it's, instead of being bromance cute force like the last time where we're friendly guys trying to bring freedom to the galaxy, this time it's bromance brute force. So we're a mix of slaver, scumbag, tyrannical dictators this time out. So, which is going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun to be the bad guys. I also want to give a quick thanks to the folks on the Stellaris subreddit. I had asked, sort of on behalf of the group, what kind of characteristics would make the quote-unquote best bad guys empires, and I got a whole host. They shared a whole host of ideas with us, so really appreciate that as well. All right, so why don't we go into, why don't we do a quick overview of our empires and talk about galaxy settings a little bit, and then we can wrap this up. How's that sound?
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Okay, so why don't we start with Vanguard? Why don't we start with your empire?
Okay, so this is my empire, guys. You're seeing a similar screen that I am seeing on both of my friends' interfaces. Basically, we're doing a militaristic conqueror type of empire. I mean, so we have Distinguished Admiralty to increase their weapons rate of fire. Militaristic for the same reason. Materialistic so we can keep up with our robots. Yes, I'm doing a robot race. And that's why you're seeing Mechanist also. Those both things work together. I placed it up charismatic, intelligent, and weak because I want to at least compensate a little bit for the leadership of the amount of research insane AI get. And charismatic because it's the name of my race. It's cute but ordinary. So he pretends to be a nice guy at first, but later on he just conquers you all. So that's it. Pretty much everything else is standard. Mass drive is hyperspace and this type of ship that I like. In fact, these avian ships is a DLC thing. They are the new ships of the expansion. So I want to see how they look. That's all. So go ahead, Mo.
So Vance, why don't you go over yours, and then I'll wrap up with the empires.
Yeah, so I actually went with sort of a spider theme with my empire, and that's actually what I got set up here. All sorts of kind of spidery stuff, because that seems super evil and terrifying. Nobody likes spiders, so I actually went for Star Empire, went Imperial for the sort of election type, distinguished admiralty. Efficient bureaucracy that gives me +2 on my core sector systems. I noticed last playthrough we did, it seemed like we were constantly especially in the early game, it was tough to try to get lots of systems, and I personally like having core sector systems because I think the AI still, I don't know if they do in this update, but in the last update they did a really shoddy job at managing any other separate entities, so I'd like to manage as much as my own as possible. Other than that, went Xenophobe, which is super fitting, I think, and Phonetic Militarist, trying to keep up with the AI. That's going to be pretty important. And just mass drives. We're doing hyperspace travel for the whole thing, for different traits. Sedentary and repugnant, because it doesn't really matter for other species' happiness for the most part. And then sedentary just seemed like free points for the most part, but very strong and rapid breeders, which feels kind of fitting for a spider-themed race. So that's what I got. Okay,
awesome. And I've got, I am the Mal Slimium Imperium, and I'm playing the badass looking snail guy because, come on now, that's just great, right? So I am also Imperial government type. I went with Fanatic Materialist for the additional army damage and rate of fire. And Authoritarian for resettlement cost and to reduce slave unrest. There's lots of ways to handle slave unrest in this new version of the game. Additional armies, there's different technologies and buildings that you can put in, obviously different governor types. So there's lots of ways to handle it. And let's be clear, we are playing, and we'll get into this when we do the settings, we are playing on insane difficulty. So we needed to be a little bit more aggressive type. In terms of our offense, but this is by far not the most offensive type that you can make. You can, we're very well aware that there are certain new civics traits that you can take in combination with certain government types that would allow you to have just a ridiculous amount of rate of fire. But from a role-playing perspective, we want to be sort of like a trifecta of doom, right? We want the three of our empires to be together, and we would have been restricted on being able to form a federation and things like that. So that's why you don't see like the super ridiculous, super whatever it was. What did it come out to be? It was like 58% rate of fire increase you could stack up or something like that.
Yeah, it was
something close to that.
Yeah,
super
it's
OP.
really,
60%.
It's really crazy good. And if you're playing by yourself, you might want to build an empire like that. But just so you know, that's the reason why we didn't, is because we wanted to be able to form our own evil federation. I've got Slavers Guild, so plus food and mineral output, and then Syncretic Evolution, which is really cool. It gives you 4 starting pops of a subservient species that are essentially more docile, and with the reduced cost to resettle and things like that, it's pretty strong out of the gate. I've tested it. You can resettle some of the slaves to another planet and then set up a whole planet basically as, go give me my minerals and stuff and do it now and like it. So it just fits the evil snail slaver thing. I took Repugnant, just like Sabouts did. I took Decadent, so minus 10% happiness without slaves, but I will always be doing the slaver thing. Agrarian for plus 15% food, and Industrious for plus 15% minerals. I have mass drivers and hyperdrive tech, just like the other guys do. So that's my empire. Now, when we look to galaxy settings, the first one that might raise a hand from people that have watched previous series is the galaxy size, which we did on small. Sabouts, can maybe give people a little bit better idea why we chose to do that?
I sure can. So we actually decided to go with a small galaxy size simply because this is going to be kind of our first time jumping into Utopia, and we really want to have a chance to check out a lot of the mechanics and new introductions that Utopia offers. But as with any new major update to a game, it ends up breaking a lot of the mods that a game has to offer, and we really at some point would love to do a Stellaris series introducing all sorts of kind of different types of mods that are out there, because there's a good handful of them for Stellaris that are pretty awesome. So we're hoping that the small galaxy size will still get us, we already know it's going to get us a really good size playthrough and a nice challenge. but we're hoping that we can play through the small galaxy size, get through it, and then we'll be able to take on some of the mods once they catch up to the Utopia update, and we'll really be able to see what kind of the mod atmosphere has for the game.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I think that when we were talking about this originally, that was a really good point about let's try to have it be a reasonable length for this first one with Utopia, so that we could then maybe inject some really cool mods in the next one. Like I know one of the ones we wanted to use for this one was the mod that never allows for like jump drive tech to show up. That Fallen Empires, like no one ever gets jump drive, so we could have really only had hyperdrive the entire time, and it would have been fun to have that, but we're not going to risk trying to inject a mod into this. Like I think that'd be we'd be running a little scared that things would go sideways. Yeah.
That's shooting your own foot.
Yeah, exactly. So galaxy shape, elliptical, which in the past we've done ring. We wanted it to be a little bit more random, and we didn't want to get blocked behind each other. So that's why we chose to do that. 7 AI empires. 0 advanced AI starts, only 1 fallen empire. And that's the reason for that is since it's tied to the difficulty that we chose was insanity. So that was kind of to strike a little bit of a balance there because we're on insane difficulty. And actually Vanguard's the one that convinced at least me. I mean, Sabouts always wants to play everything on the most possible difficulty ever. So he needed no convincing, but Vanguard convinced me to go ahead and play on insane. Why don't you share people like what your argument was for that, like why we chose to go up to insane from hard difficulty last time?
Okay, so insane basically, guys, gives the AIs 100% more minerals, credits, fleet size, and everything else. Research, they just got double what the players get. So since we are playing 3 people together, working together, it makes sense that we are going to get 3 times the bigger fleets than they are going to get. But even we're getting only 1/3 of the resources, there are 3 of us. So the only thing that we are going to be behind the AI is just the research. Everything else we're going to be at least 50% ahead of them. That's supposing we're fighting only 1 empire. If they team up, then we're doomed. That's basically.
And we might be anyway, right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
When we finished that hard difficulty playthrough, I mean, it was legitimately hard. So I agreed to do this. I'm not going to say that I didn't, but we'll see. I mean, them getting double everything is pretty scary to me.
Yeah, don't expect us to win, guys. That's what I'm trying to say to you.
There's a decent chance, yeah. Let's see. But that explains why we did the no advanced AI starts, because they're already starting advanced. 1 fallen empire, habitable worlds, we just left it at the 1x. We didn't increase or decrease the likelihood of Goldilocks zone worlds. We are doing FTL method hyperdrive, so until the Fallen Empire's tech kind of breaks out to the others, it'll be hyperdrive, which gives us a chance to use defenses, particularly in the early game, to establish borders and set up traps and things, which I think is kind of fun to do. Advanced Neighbors is off, in-game crisis is on, empire placement is random. So I think that pretty much covers everything that we wanted to cover in the intro. But just bear a couple things in mind. We are playing on, as you can see down here, version 1.5.0, and there might be some slight differences in the Let's Play, at least in the first couple episodes, versus what you're playing on when you get access to Utopia. And the reason for that is that we are playing on a press version, sort of an early release version of the game. We wanted to thank Paradox too for allowing us to be part of that. Obviously, we're all Stellaris fans, but we also want to be upfront with folks that we were provided the Utopia expansion. Okay, now, is there anything else you guys think we need to cover before we close out the intro
I just
here?
think we need to tell something to them all. The D050, that stands for Development Build 050. So this is a development build. We can find some bugs in the game. We didn't find any until now, but just realize, guys, this is a alpha or a beta release. So it's prompt to be buggy. So don't judge the game based on that. That's all I have to say to you.
Yeah. So if we discover some things along the way, particularly in the first few episodes before we transition to the retail release version, just bear that in mind, folks. Okay. Sabouts, anything else before we close it up?
Oh, I'm all ready to go.
Are you ready to go? Time to purge the Xenos. Okay, folks. Well, we hope that you enjoyed this. We will be putting out episodes daily at 9 a.m. Eastern US. We look forward to your comments and feedback as always. I am Mal. I am grateful that I am joined by Vanguard and Sabouts, and we'll see you later.